back to the channel, fam. I am Mike Hernandez. For those of you guys who are new to the page, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the 500-mile review of my brand new 2021 CRF300L Rally from Honda. Again, guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like the page. It really helps me out. This bike has been so much fun. You know, it is part of the smaller segment of ADV bikes, meaning that it is only 300 cc's, and it weighs somewhere around 300 pounds, 320 pounds, somewhere around there, which in comparison to the other big adventure bikes, you know, those can go all the way up to like the Harley Pan America, you know, 500, 550 pounds. So the middleweight class would be somewhere like the T7, the Yamaha Tenere, which I think we should do a video on that one too a little bit later because I'm really interested in that guy now owning this one. Why don't we get into the 500-mile review on this thing, because I am very pleasantly surprised on how this little guy has been performing. So to get started, this is a 300. It is an upgrade on the 250 that Honda first came out with. This is the brand new year, 2021, and I have been riding it, like the title says, for about 500 miles. Now what I can do is the first oil change is done with the break-in period, and then we can take advantage of those really long service intervals of about 8,000 miles. That is a big reason as to why I chose this bike. Some of the other bigger bikes from Honda, some of the other variants like the 450s, have a much closer maintenance interval, and I just didn't want to deal with that, you know? So what I decided early on, if you saw my other video when I first bought this and I did the first ride, is that I wanted to get a really great experience on two wheels, because I've seen, you know, my buddies who are already involved in it, and I've been watching and seeing how even some of the YouTube pages here have really gotten outdoors and involved in a different way than what I'm used to in terms of vehicles, right? In terms of trucks, in terms of Tacomas, like I said, and even, you know, my Gladiator. One of the things that I do want to say, and again, we're just talking about context, is it's a totally different experience. When you look at today, in current date and time, everything that we do, and it's funny I'm saying this because this is even, you know, YouTube, is viewed through a screen, right? So we watch TV, we do our business meetings, you know, now Zoom is very popular because of the way that we have to interact. And as we begin to branch out, you know, screens over the last several years are just commonplace. And for me, you know, I'm rounding 40, you guys. I was born in the 80s. I remember when cell phones and pagers came out, right? Like, so for me, being now in this current present day and seeing how everybody, including myself, you know, views life through a screen, I wanted to change that in the way that I go outside. So you guys know, I mean, I'm always outside. I'm always in my truck. I just did 2,600 miles between like, what, 5 states, I think. We went here from Arizona, through Nevada, to Utah, to Bozeman, Montana, through Idaho, and then all the way back again. And we did, you know, the mobility experience, which is a different story. But it's all viewed similarly. I mean, yes, we get outside, but that screen is still there, the windshield, you know, and I'm in this really nice, you know, Rubicon truck, and, you know, we slept in like, what, 27 degrees, and in the rooftop tents and whatnot, and that's when you get out. But the whole experience is technically through, you know, the windshield. And the difference is, bear with me, the difference is when you're on a motorcycle or two wheels, you're immersed, right? Instead of viewing life through a screen on that, you're essentially exposed and immersed into the environment. And that's what's so cool about experiencing, you know, these trips and this outdoor lifestyle, adventure riding, dual sport, through a motorcycle as opposed to a truck or a overland rig, is this, you're in it, right? And it is a totally different experience. Now, I can totally see how this could totally change your lifestyle, and again, I'm talking as a beginner into the two-wheel, right? I can see how this would just take over, and dudes be like, man, this is what I'm here to do in life, and become immersed in it, and they become bikers, and they live out of, you know, out of the rig, and they set them up that way, and they travel the world. Dude, I am really, and only within 500 miles, really starting to understand that. But the flip side of it is, it's terrifying. You know, when I'm on the freeway or out just in you know, doing a day-to-day driving on the streets, people do not stop and look for you. You know, it's very apparent how, and we talk about this sometimes on here, the Fieldcraft Mobility page on the Instagram, you know, the inattentiveness is a real thing, getting back to that whole viewing life, you know, through a screen. Please, if you're watching this and you're not at all into motorcycles or haven't experienced it, watch out for motorcycles. When I'm out there riding, I mean, I haven't been hit, obviously, and I pray that never happens, and to any of you guys who are out there, but it's a real thing, right? So there's two sides of that coin, super immersive. I'm loving it. I can see how the lifestyle would totally change. And the other side of that is it's something. So we talked about the maintenance cycles of it. We talked about the lifestyle change. Let's talk about power. You know, the 300cc engine is very good for someone like me. And if you're looking to get into bikes and you don't have experience like I do, one of the things that could really concern me, and I've seen other dudes do this just from the outside looking in, is they'll go get, you know, a big BMW GS, and those, you know, the heavyweights that you see that tour the world and are, you know, quite honestly top of the food chain when it comes to these things. And it's too much bike, right? It weighs too much at over 500 pounds. It's got too much power. And the first thing you're going to do, whether you get the little ones or not, is you lay it down, right? And it becomes very overwhelming very quickly, and then it's sold and you never get into it, is kind of the experience that I've had, you know, just being involved in motorsports and mobility from the outside looking in. So knowing that, I wanted to get into something that, one, I wouldn't be intimidated of, but two, that I could grow into, right? I think the 300 is perfect for that. One being that it is not 550 pounds. I know that I got a couple comments about it being, you know, over 300 pounds and it being a pig. You know, I don't disagree with that, but when you're looking at the rest of the dual sport adventure bikes, this one being lightweight at that is actually a good thing. The other alternative is to go full dirt bike, and I didn't want to do that, right? I actually have a box back there, I don't know if you can see it, a new Moto Jack rack that I'm gonna put on the back of my truck. And the reason why I got that is just so I could transport this thing, like in the event of shows or you know, like when we went to Overland Expo, and my truck and my motorcycle were in, I'm stuttering, my motorcycle were in the Fieldcraft Survival booth. You know, I can't drive those both at the same time. So it is my intention to run this as an independent vehicle so I can get a good experience running this straight out of my house, going doing some camping, and then plugging in those really basic fundamentals of mobility that we teach at Fieldcraft, right? So for me, the 300cc is perfect. And I'll tell you, you know, it's got 6 gears. I rolled a clip of it at the beginning of this video of me on the freeway. And I think that's where we're gonna see a little bit more of, it's not a negative, right? It's just where the 300 starts to fall a little short. It's got 6 speeds. The 6th gear is an overdrive gear. The first 3 are pretty close together and low, which is great for that slow technical stuff when you gotta do that. And then, you know, 5th and 6th gear for a small 300 can get you 85 miles per hour. Keep in mind, and if you wanna see my other video, you know, I am only 5'6", 150 pounds. So I am very much on the smaller side. So even that, in terms of the 300, you know, it's not hauling around, you know, some of my bigger dudes like MG, who's 6'2", you know, 200 plus. So it's something to consider. The 300 or the 300L and the motor and the way it's designed for the maintenance, like I also talked about, it's a good power to weight ratio. The transmission is nice, it's newly updated. The spacing between the gears is nice. And I think it's just the right amount of power. Now, it's not gonna be, you know, ripping this thing out of your hands when you're at freeway speed going 65 miles per hour, not. But it will get there. And like you saw in the video, it tries its little heart out. But I appreciate it. And I think that's one of the very attractive things about this little bike is the new 300. Next, let's talk about the seat height. So it is over 35 inches. And if you saw the last video where I talked about my first impression, this is tall, especially for a smaller 300. My inseam is probably 29 inches, you know? I typically buy like the 30-inch tall pants because of how short I am. 35 inches is very, very tall for someone as small as me. But even you bigger dudes who are 6 foot, you know, I think that's one of the things you're really gonna wanna consider if you are thinking about this bike and you're a smaller dude, is that it is going to take some getting used to. When I started looking at bikes and working on the 3 points of contact, you know, that rider's triangle that we'll talk about in a little bit, I was worried that the 35-inch tall inseam would actually create more problems for me, being that I'm so short. I've been very fortunate enough to have some mentors who have been, riding for ever since they were very little, like, Mike Glover, who's always done that and has had several bikes. And when I got this idea to get into this bike, I actually called him up and I was like, man, I'm not going through a midlife crisis or anything, man, but I really like to get into this. I don't want to die. It was one of the first things that I told him. And he's like, you'll be fine, Mikey. Let's get, absolutely, man. He's like, I'd love it if you did it. Let me know. I'll get one. I'll get another one too, because he's been wanting to get back into this segment. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I asked him also and some of my other buddies, is 35 inches too tall for me? And he's like, you need to learn to manage it. Yes, maybe you can put a lower link on it and lower the seat and all the stuff that you already had planned for. But it is something that you're going to have to learn to manage. All of us short people understand that. And so far, it hasn't been too much of an issue. And I have taken a couple of spills. There's been probably 2 of them where I did, try and stick my foot down, but I was already past that point, the angle where it didn't matter. My foot came down and I still hit the ground. So it is something to consider. I have ordered a Seat Concepts. It's like an 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch lowered seat. Who knows when I'm going to get that? Honestly, they gave me some crazy like 6 months or something like that before I'll get it. And then I'll kind of make the decision if I'm going to do a lower link and kind of get it close to the ground. But so far, I really like it. You don't necessarily have to be flat-footed, especially just, on longer freeway stuff that doesn't come into play. But it is a little scary when, you're doing some more technical riding and whatnot off-road. The next thing I want to talk about is the first mod that I think you guys should do. And again, remember, I've only spent 500 miles in a few months getting into this thing. It's my very first bike. But for me, I changed the Dunlop D606 tires pretty immediately. I really did not like the factory tires, guys. I saw some other reviews were like, they're okay. They're kind of 50-50. They'll get you on and off, dirt roads and whatnot. And God, I got to disagree with that. And maybe that is just me being new and a novice. But I really did not like the factory tires that came with it. So I did some research. I threw the Dunlop D606's front and rear on this just to try it out, right? I had some good recommendations from some of you guys here that reached out and said, hey, this is what I like. And I'll be honest, the front tire in the last couple 100 miles, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. It does kind of, it's so knobby that when I'm on the freeway at speed, sometimes it'll start to get that little rhythm that, these knobby tires do on the freeway, and I have to let off and it'll ride itself out. So change the tires. Next, let's talk about the factory plastics. You may have noticed that I have cut all of the bottom plastics off and added a bash plate. That is because I almost immediately broke them. You guys, if you saw the other video, you saw I laid it down on its side, but even going through some of those rocky sections, the plastic was just never gonna hold up. I did have a bash plate that was installed with the factory plastics on it, and even still then, when I hit some of the side parts, it destroyed them and broke them. So I ended up cutting them off and putting an SRC plastics on it. And we'll just leave it at that, so I won't go too much into detail about it. But that's something that you're going to need to consider if you're going to be out taking your stuff off-road. Okay. To close this out, the 500 miles that I've done on this bike, I would say that this little guy has done really well on road. I mean, it's got great characteristics. The modern ergonomics of it are really great. Actually, like we talked about tires, the factory tires did pretty good on road. Now, off-road is a little bit of a different story. And again, remember, I'm going to keep saying this just so you guys, because I know some people get upset on YouTube. But me being a novice, I expected this to behave a little bit more like a dirt bike and not as good on road. And I was wrong when I had that assumption. This is not bad by any means off-road, but because it is 330 pounds, dirt bikes are significantly lighter, it does require a different skill set, which I haven't developed yet, right? So I would say that off-road, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I think a lot of that would be better if I were a better rider. So to close this up, I can't say enough good things about this little bike. I affectionately said, go 300, go, when I was getting it up to the highway speeds and getting it as fast as I can, because I'm kind of like cheering it on as a little underdog. To me, if you are looking at getting into ADV, dual sport riding, and you're like, man, what do I get? What's going on? I would highly recommend that you take a look at this. The price point is right. What you get for the price point is excellent. You know, the aftermarket, which is a little slow right now just because, well, everything's slow, right? Even I'm working on the garage and I'm still waiting on like lumber and stuff, right? Just the way of the world. The aftermarket's a little slow, but there are several companies that I've been able to get stuff. You know, maybe it's a little delayed here and there, but you guys know I've only had this for a couple of months. You can go back and check my videos out. And I just can't say enough good things about it. You know, I think that the only negative, to close it out again, is the highway driving, because it is a smaller, lightweight dual sport. It's a little concerning. Today, even as I was finalizing the 500 miles, it was very windy on the freeway. And, you know, any motorcycle is going to feel that, but these smaller, lightweight bikes and low displacement bikes, you know, it was having to rev, and I even noticed that I was getting into the throttle a little more and even leaning into the wind just slightly because of how windy it is. So it's just something to consider. As of right now, 500 miles, I give this little bike 2 thumbs up. If you're asking if you should get it, I say 100%. If you can, I know they're a little difficult to come by. I had a little bit different experience from most of the guys here on YouTube, so go check out that first ride video, first impressions that I've already done. Thank you for sticking with me this far. I know this was a little bit longer video, but like I said, I just can't say enough good things about it. Honda, good job. Guys, like, subscribe, tell your friends, share this. These motorcycle videos have been doing a little bit better than some of my other stuff in the interviews. I've been really enjoying them, so I'm gonna also continue to make these, you know, Honda adventure sport, dual sport videos. I am planning a trip here real soon. And then obviously the fam and I will always be in our Gladiator. Thanks again, guys. Catch you on the next one.